counts, including murder. Christian Goodwin has more.
Judge Tony Graff reading Tyler Robinson the charges filed against him, which include aggravated murder, telling him he'd be given a court-appointed attorney.
Mr. Robinson, at this time, you will remain in custody without bail.
Robinson appearing virtually, Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray alleging aggravating factors that the 22-year-old targeted Charlie Kirk based on Kirk's political expression and knowingly shot and killed the conservative activist while children were present. Gray seeking the death penalty.
I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently.
Robinson's next hearing is set for September 29th.
A student is expelled after being caught on video acting out Charlie Kirk's assassination at a Texas State University vigil.
Video shows the man hitting his neck and pretending he was shot during the memorial at the university's San Marcos campus. He's then seen standing in front of a statue, saying his name is Charlie Kirk, and then falling to the ground, mocking Kirk's death. Texas Governor Greg Abbott calling for his expulsion, the university quickly complying with that request. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Congress works to fund the government before the September 30th shutdown deadline. Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman explains that he and fellow Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick promised not to hold the government hostage despite their policy differences.
I absolutely fully support extending the tax credits for the ACA, but I refuse absolutely to vote for anything, whether that's to shut our government down.
A Memphis area pastor says the church must continue to push forward following the announcement from the White House that National Guard troops are going to be deployed to deal with the enormous crime rate in the Tennessee city. Chad Groening has more.
On Monday, President Trump signed an order to dispatch the National Guard into Memphis to combat a crime rate that is higher than the national average. With Tennessee Governor Bill Lee visiting the Oval Office, Trump said troops would be deployed and join a special task force in the city, comprised of officials from various federal agencies, including the FBI, Drug Enforcement Administration, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the U.S. Marshals Service. Bishop Vincent Matthews is an ambassador with the Project 21 Black Leadership Network and leads the Global Kingdom Network in the Memphis area.
It's a complicated move. It is clear to everyone in this area that the crime in Memphis is beyond the pale. It is inexcusable, and something has to be done. And many people are just concerned what happens systemically going beyond that. With the contracts happening between the mayor and the unions of the police as well as the fire department, the state police has been here, FBI has been here. I just pray that this can help.
But Matthews says the church must be a big part of the solution.
We're, as a church, seeking to bring solutions and really seeking to build families and bring back biblical values and a Christian worldview. One thing is for sure, the church can't go anywhere. We can't retreat. We got to push forward. So prayerfully, after this, we can continue to circle the wagons and really rebuild our community, and Memphis can be a shining hope and not a blight on a nation.
I'm Chad Groening.
Today, the Federal Reserve delivers its decision on interest rates. Hillary Barsky has a preview.
It's widely expected that the central bank will lower interest rates for the first time this year and will slash its benchmark funds rate by a quarter point to a range of 4 to 4.25%. The decision comes as recent job reports signaled a weakening labor market while inflation still remains elevated. The Fed made its first reduction to interest rates in September of 2024, kicking off the current easing cycle with a hefty half-a-point move and lowering rates from their highest level in more than 23 years.
And shoppers increased their spending at a better-than-expected pace in August from July, helped by back-to-school shopping. Retail sales rose 0.6% last month from July, when sales were up a revised 0.6%. In June, retail sales rose 0.9%. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
In today's society, the traditional values of marriage and the family unit face increasing scrutiny and reinterpretation. Join us as a courageous group of speakers and leaders rise up to defend these foundational institutions from a biblical perspective. For more information and to reserve your spot, visit us at scs.edu/national-conference. The Steadfast National Conference on Christian Apologetics and Evangelism, where faith meets reason, culture, and community.
Welcome to Today's Issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome, everybody, to today's issues. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon this week. I am joined in studio by Tony Vitagliano. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Chris Woodward is in the studio with us. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning.
And Dr. Alex McFarland is, I think, still in South Carolina. Good morning to you, Alex.
I am, and good morning to all.
So this is unique. 3 straight days at home. This is kind of unusual for you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is, and it's just a privilege to be on today's issues. It's a privilege to be on the American Family Radio Network anyway, but because, Bert Harper and I teach the Bible every afternoon on Exploring the Word, but I'm also kind of a news junkie, so this is a privilege to be on.
Yeah, you're very well informed. You stay current with what's happening, and not just staying informed on the what, but the why. And having a biblical perspective on what's going on is critical. That's why people tune in to American Family Radio. They want to not only know what's going on, but why and how the Bible speaks to it. And that is important, Alex, right? For Christians to have that kind of, when we talk about Christian worldview, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. Many years ago when I was a young Christian and I began to really listen to James Dobson and Chuck Colson and Don Wildmon, my mother got the AFA newsletter. By God's grace, I really got ramped up kind of quickly on worldview. And I remember the pastor that I was under at that time at the church where I got saved, rest his soul, but he said to me, and I'm quoting Ed, he said, well, that James Dobson is kind of an alarmist because we're a Christian nation and gay marriage will never be legalized by the Supreme Court. And he said, Alex, I'm just kind of worried that Chuck Colson, James Dobson, those guys are kind of alarmists. And, they weren't. Don Wildmon, I think of D. James Kennedy, the late Jerry Falwell.
Phyllis
Schlafly, that's right. They were right. We're in a battle of worldviews. And in a way, we're kind of a little... Now, many Christians have been on point for decades. But I would say to the church at large, we have to realize that we are in a battle of worldviews. And every Christian, every citizen needs to be informed and to take a stand.
Well, because it's winner take all. These are 2 mutually exclusive worldviews. I always like to go back, and we're preaching just a little bit, folks. Bear with us. I always go back to President Abraham Lincoln during the middle of the Civil War, when he gave his House Divided speech, making it clear that America could not be split indefinitely on the issue of slavery. That the country, if it was going to stay whole, if it was going to stay united, and he quoted from Jesus, it had to decide which way it was going. And that's what we're in the midst of right now. It appears to me that this is a house-divided moment, and you can't follow the path of secular progressive humanism, socialism leading to communism, all those you can't stay on that path and respect the ideas, the founding ideas of our founding fathers, and survive as one country. And I think we're seeing with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I think we're seeing that neither side is going to be able to simply stay put. Someone's going to have to win this and control the direction of the country. Because you can't keep going like we're going, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'll give you the last word on that, Alex, and then Chris will get us ramped up on the news.
Yeah, well, last night it was my privilege to speak at a memorial for Charlie Kirk, a TPUSA thing in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And they showed video of Charlie Kirk. Well, they showed a lot of video from our August 21 conference he and I did. But Charlie Kirk said the most important thing is to fulfill the Great Commission. preach the gospel. The second most important thing for Americans is that we preserve the right to do the first most important thing, which is win people to Christ.
Amen. I like that. That's good preaching.
Yep.
And I'm happy to hear that it went well last night.
Amen.
All right, Chris, let's get started with the news of the day.
Well, the shooting death of Charlie Kirk occurred in Utah County, Utah. And yesterday, the county prosecutor there rattled off a variety of charges against the man police say shot and killed Charlie Kirk on Wednesday, September 10th. I cut this down. It's still over a minute, but it's the Utah County Prosecutor Jeff Gray announcing the various charges for the suspected shooter. Clip 1.
I am filing a criminal information charging Tyler James Robinson, age 22, with the following crimes. Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital offense. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony. Count 3, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for moving and concealing the rifle used in the shooting. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for disposing the clothing he wore during the shooting. Count 5, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to delete his incriminating texts. Count 6, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to stay silent if police questioned him. And count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor, for committing homicide knowing that children were present and may have seen or heard the murder and did so based on Charlie Kirk's political expression.
Now, that was, again, Utah County Prosecutor Jeff Gray, who went on to say that Utah County is going to pursue the death penalty or seek the death penalty in this case.
Tony, this the 7 charges against Tyler Robinson, we do want to do what we always do and just say he is the suspected shooter. In our country, you're innocent until proven guilty. But I read the email exchange he had with his roommate, who, according to press reports, is in the process of transitioning to become a trans quote-unquote woman. The governor of the state, Governor Spencer Cox, said that they were involved romantically, okay, Tyler Robinson and his roommate. So I read the exchange. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, not to be voyeuristic or anything like this, but I think the trans issue is relevant to what allegedly happened here with Tyler Robinson, and that Charlie Kirk was assassinated in large part because of his stand against the transgender movement. But in reading this email exchange, I was struck by, I don't want to say how ignorant Tyler Robinson was, but laying everything out, admitting that you have committed this murder and being very specific about what you've done with the weapon that was, again, allegedly used, all of this for a generation that is so tied into technology. Even if you tell your roommate delete it, it's not gone. I mean, the phone carrier is going to have that kind of thing. I was just, I don't know. If you even have an opinion on this, I was just struck by that conversation. I don't know how this is going to play into the trial. It almost seems like you're a very incompetent murderer if you're going to lay out your guilt in such a blatant way. Anyway, what is your thought about, thoughts about this?
A couple of things come to mind. First of all, I think it shows that the younger generation, people Tyler Robinson's age, are so quickly radicalized that they kind of jump into the most radical element first. So
it's not gradual.
It's not gradual.
Yeah.
So that sticks out to me because he is so young, and I know there's maybe some conflicting reports or things that haven't been confirmed, but it seems to me like most of his ideological transformation occurred while he was at college, and so to go from just leaving, I'm not saying there wasn't tendencies or leanings before he left home, but to go off to college and transform into this ideologue, and then to jump straight into violence just shows that there's a reason. Again, we talked about this yesterday. Maybe there's a reason why colleges have been targeted for decades now as basically farms for leftism, because kids can just be radicalized just like that. I mean, so quickly. The other thing that sticks out to me is, to your point about the technology, and because they're so young, kids are just so ignorant. They've been online their entire lives, some of them, and you share everything. You share what you ate, for supper that night.
Right.
You're sharing, what you're watching on TV right now. I mean, you just share everything. So it's not surprising to me either that this person, Tyler Robinson, just started sharing details about how he carried out this horrible crime. And maybe, I don't know, there's also this other element of maybe wanting to be caught or feeling like he's going to be treated like a hero. Because we see with Luigi Mangione, he's not really villainized in the circles that Tyler Robinson kind of floats in either. He's a hero to these left-wing extremists. So there may be a thought process too where it's okay. I'll be a hero anyways. So even if I get caught. Those are just a couple of my thoughts.
Alex, again, we want to be very careful and say suspected shooter Tyler Robinson. I will say the evidence looks like it is piling up against this young man. But what I want to talk to you about is, like Tony said, we have some conflicting reports. I don't know how much of his transformation was. He's dropped out, right? He dropped out of college, didn't he?
Yeah, he only went, I think, less than a year.
So, so college and then social media, online, this young man gets radicalized. I'm thinking about the professors in a lot of these colleges and universities who are older and who are training up these young people, as Tony puts it. This is left-wing, farms. But it has always been, I think you might have even said it yesterday, someone did this week, I think, that that young people are drafted into radical movements because they aren't as wise, they're not as cautious. Tony's laid it out perfectly here. You just think everybody thinks like you because your small circle of online friends or, the people you hang out at the coffee shop or whatever think the way you do, and young people are drafted into this to become almost like cannon fodder for the cultural Marxists as they seek to overthrow our republic. And I am absolutely not saying Tyler Robinson, if he is proven guilty of killing Charlie Kirk, I'm not saying he's a victim. I'm just saying he perhaps has been duped into becoming radicalized simply because these cultural Marxists need cannon fodder. Your thoughts?
Well, we could do an entire week of shows on how we kind of got where we are. And, it's interesting how in the world today, many people pride themselves on individualism and I'm unique and I'm just autonomous. And yet young people on social media are they're very prone to what we might call groupthink.
Yeah.
Groupthink. And, there's cliques, or 10 years ago, sociologists were calling young people, affinity groups, tribes, because we all seek not only relationship and interaction with other human beings, but we seek validation. And another term that sociologists often use is echo chamber. So when people get in groups, and this is not necessarily bad. I mean, there are people that like to play pickleball and they find groups online, and there are people that Christians there. But when lonely people that feel victimized gather together, whether it be LGBTQ trans or gamers or drug users, that echo chamber can get pretty dark. And later on in the show, we're going to hear some incredible content that Steve Jordahl has got with Ben Shapiro. But it's just so sad, because here's the other thing, and I'll throw it back to you guys. All right, I'm a victim. I have to lash out. But this is also a generation that for decades, young people have been taught there are no moral absolutes.
Right.
I'm not accountable to, not even going to answer to the authorities, ultimately not even accountable to God. And this is so sad, but this is an opportunity that we as an entire nation turn back to God, turn back to his revealed moral truth, which includes the sanctity of human life. And we realize that, yes, every single one of us is accountable to God. We're answerable to God for the things we do.
Amen. Well put. And folks, this is, by the way, why we exist. American Family Radio is to put these kind of things in a Christian context and bring this understanding to bear, because a lot of people are asking why.
Right.
Why someone would shoot Charlie Kirk, do it in front of his wife, and I think one child was there. The 3-year-old, I think, was at home with a caregiver. But there are biblical explanations for why people do these kind of things. Mm-hmm. All right, Chris.
One of the reasons why some people have kind of held or considered Tyler Robinson or even Luigi Mangione, and they've considered them heroes for their actions, is because the media, unfortunately, has purposely or inadvertently romanticized their actions.
Go ahead. Just we mentioned Luigi Mangione a couple times. Just remind our listeners.
Yes, Luigi Mangione is the man that was arrested for shooting the United Healthcare CEO to death in New York.
Yeah.
And in the days and weeks that followed that murder, a lot of people on social media and even people on television shows, news programs, talked about maybe, Mangione was in the right because of all the terrible things that the news outlet or the news personality said United Healthcare and other executives do to people. Yesterday was a related situation here, because an ABC News reporter by the name of Matt Gutman went over on air some of the messages that Tyler Robinson supposedly had with his roommate, who, again, the prosecutors call his boyfriend. And Matt Gutman is being teared to shreds today for how he presented this story. Clip 8.
The thing that stood out to me, David, is those text messages. I don't know if we have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate, who was transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this.
Tony, that was just bizarre. I don't know how someone like that keeps their job. That is, it's bizarre in pointing that out, because that's not even germane to the discussion, what he was reporting on. What he was reporting on are the facts surrounding the arrest of Tyler Robinson, and whether he's in love with his transgender boyfriend or not is besides the point. Who cares? Yeah. It almost sounded like it was a kind of an apologetic on behalf. He was trying to humanize Tyler Robinson. I don't know anyone who's saying Tyler Robinson's not human. Okay, people can be, people can have certain people they have affection for and love. I don't know how many movies I saw, of the gangster movies of the 1950s, where they, they're going to the electric chair when they're finally caught, and they're talking about their mother.
Yeah.
Okay, they all love their mother. Okay, who cares?
Yeah.
Somebody who's going to the electric chair in a movie or in real life, whatever happens in Utah, it's irrelevant. And I just found that a bizarre thing to say.
Yeah, it is very bizarre to almost like portray them as like this Bonnie and Clyde figure. You know, that's I think that's what kind of came to my mind, is because, you know, now that we're, you know, I don't know, forgive me, I don't know my history. I don't know how long ago Bonnie and Clyde were.
Probably the 30s.
30s, yeah. So now that we're that far back, people kind of look at that and there is like this element of romanticization because of their you know,
they
relationship. They loved each other, but also they were going around murdering people.
Yes.
Like that's why they got hunted down and were taken out by law enforcement. So it's an odd thing to point to and to lock in on, which to me just goes to show that while many in the media have openly condemned this and openly spoken out against this, just this act of terror and murder, there is still this undercurrent in the media that just kind of refuses to admit that this is just evil, and that evil, no matter what the person's personal life looks like, if you commit an act of evil like this, that's all society should care about, and that's all society should focus on punishing. Yeah. It's the same. It's how you get more Luigi Mangionis. It's how you get more Tyler Robinsons, is by saying like, well, you know, yeah, what he did was wrong, but there's also this human side of him, you know, that we need to focus on.
There is a reason the History Channel has never done a special on the love letters between Adolf and Eva Braun. I mean, you don't go down that road.
Yep, that's a great point.
Well, Alex, we are talking about, and again, I'm being very careful. I don't want AFR to get sued. Okay, suspected shooter Tyler Robinson. Okay, but the act that has been committed in the murder of Charlie Kirk, and there's a reason why there are aggravating circumstances that have led to additional felonies in this case. Robinson being charged, for example, with the commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child. Okay, because the job, to Tony's point, the job of government, biblically speaking, in Romans 13, is to punish evil and promote what is good. And for that reason, it does not bear the sword in vain, Paul says in Romans 13. It says nothing about, and this goes to the whole point in government changing, the Supreme Court changing the definition of marriage to include same-sex couples. The government has no biblical business trying to change the nature of marriage by decree. Right. Okay, they have very specific tasks assigned by God. Obviously, governments break out of that fairly frequently, but the government's job in this case is to find the perpetrator and punish evil, not give its stamp of approval on Robinson's relationship with his transgender boyfriend.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is a defense tactic, and again, yes, he's the accused, the alleged, but to try to elicit sympathy, and to try to really, in the courtroom of public opinion right now, elicit sympathy. That's not good journalism, and I hope people really won't be misled by that narrative.
How many members of the media have romanticized Charlie Kirk's relationship with his wife and his children? That's what I want to know. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see
that's a good
comparison.
Point. Yeah, they're not bending over backwards. Some probably have. I haven't watched all the news media, but this was a bizarre thing to say. I hope this individual is sanctioned by his own network. That's not professional, and as we've been pointing out, they don't do it for any other criminal cases that I'm aware of. So, all right, folks, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will be discussing more about what's happening here and abroad, mostly here today, but we'll be right back.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
We used to be a nation of dreamers. Some of that's missing now, but we have it as part of our heritage. Our forefathers, those who founded our country, were dreamers. They dreamed of a country where man would be free, where he could live in dignity and hope and promise of a better tomorrow. They lived that dream, believed in it so much they were willing to give their lives for it. Nothing could stop them from reaching out for that dream, not even all the combined power of the King of England. They took that dream, and with it they beat the unbeatable foe. They conquered the unconquerable land. They traveled the untravelable roads. What great dreamers they were. But they were not the greatest dreamers this world has had. There was a small group of men who had even greater dreams than did the founders of our country. Back nearly 2,000 years ago, there was a group of 11 men who had a dream, a great dream. They dreamed that they could conquer the world without ever lifting a sword or firing a gun. They dreamed that one day every man, woman, and child could and would share with them the new faith they had found. They dreamed that one day this world would be ruled by love. It was a great dream they had, so great, in fact, that the world laughed at them, ridiculed them, even persecuted and killed them. But the dream could not be destroyed. It lived on. They planted that dream of a world ruled by love in the hearts and minds of other individuals. The dream lived and grew. Soon that dream had conquered persons of all climates, all classes, all races. There are those today who are still dreaming that dream. They are inspired by a carpenter who touched the hearts of common people as no other man. He planted that dream in their hearts, nourished it, watched it grow. It is the dream of a world where men are brothers, where we help instead of hurt, share instead of steal, give instead of grab. It is a dream of a world ruled by brotherly love. A foolish dream? An unrealistic dream? An illogical dream? Yes, it's been called all of those things, but that doesn't stop people from dreaming it and from trying to make that dream come true. It is, in a way, an unfulfilled dream, but many still search after it. The call goes out from this Galilean carpenter today for more dreamers. Few there are who dare to give themselves to that dream. It seems unreachable to most people. It is certainly a big dream and requires the best there is in a person. For this reason, very few dare dream that dream, for it's a challenge, the world's greatest challenge. It isn't a dream for sissies or weaklings or the lazy. No, it's a dream for great people. If you're a dreamer looking for a dream to give yourself to, there's none greater in all the world. And one day, with his help, the dream will come true.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29, verse 13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And welcome back. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon this week. I'm joined in studio by Tony Vitagliano and Chris Woodward. Dr. Alex McFarland joins us remotely. Do want to remind you that Steve Jordahl will be joining us as usual in the third segment at 11:05. We're looking forward to it. He has done a great job gleaning some insights from Ben Shapiro about radical movements in this country, the danger they pose, and what they kind of think, what they have in common as well. You'll want to tune in for that. We'll probably cover a couple of other additional news items during Steve's segment, but we are looking forward to seeing what Steve has found from this Ben Shapiro segment, or it might have been a podcast or from his own show. So that will be coming up in about 30 minutes. All right, Chris.
Well, this very well could have been a lead story for much of yesterday afternoon, especially, had there not been continuing coverage, and understandably so, of the shooting death of Charlie Kirk and the charges we've already played Utah County Prosecutor Jeff Gray announcing. Yesterday, there was a very heated exchange between senators and FBI Director Kash Patel. One of the more talked about exchanges involves FBI Director Kash Patel going at it with Senator Adam Schiff, a Democrat from California. This exchange was very heated and certainly has gotten a lot of coverage. Now, just to provide a little context here, I'll share a link on this on our Today's Issues Facebook page. The exchange occurred or began when the Democrat, Adam Schiff, was trying to press Patel for details on the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and why his associate, or alleged associate, Maxwell, her last name is, was transferred to a minimum security prison after U.S. deputy attorneys met with her in Florida. They also want to know why they won't be as forthcoming with the Epstein materials as they said they would months ago. So that led to a very heated exchange. I've got this in a couple of different ways, but just to set things up for you, let's play the short version here, clip 3.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Now, that person speaking at the end there was FBI Director Kash Patel. And things carried on for another minute or so. I can play a little bit more of that. We've got the longer cut here.
I want to hear it.
Yes.
I want to hear Kash Patel hand Adam Schiff his head, metaphorically speaking, because this was quite a showdown between these two.
I listen to screaming toddlers all day, so I'm not quite as enthusiastic about listening to congressmen.
So this clip will begin how that one left off there. Clip 7.
At best.
Well, you can take people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're
inmates.
not in the weeds?
What I am
The
doing is
most-
protecting
the
this country,
most- the
providing
most
historic
significant
reform,
witness-
and
the most
combating the
significant witness,
weaponization of
the
intelligence
Epstein
by the
files
likes of you.
cover-up
And we have
gets
countlessly proven you to
from
be a
your
liar in
administration,
Russiagate, in
and you
January
call that
6th.
being
You are
in
the
the
biggest
weeds?
fraud to ever sit in the
This
United States
stinks to
Senate.
high
You are a
heaven.
disgrace to this
This stinks to high
institution
heaven.
and an utter coward.
And I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and
All right,
the state and
that's
citizens.
probably good.
We
That's
should
good.
have finished. We should have ended that. We should have ended that with that song from like "People Let Me Tell You About My Best Friend" or something like that. I don't know what it's called. It's from that show from a long time ago.
A Tuesday night
Yeah,
at the
it is.
Montagliano house right here.
Where the kids are
Yeah,
arguing.
oh, my goodness.
You're a buffoon.
Alex, listen, the reason I wanted to, when I first heard this, that's why I sent around the text to our group here. I said, I want to hear this. It was superb. It is disrespectful, generally speaking, for a witness to speak to a member of the House or the Senate in this way. However, Adam Schiff and some of the other Democrats do this kind of insulting interrogation all the time.
Yeah.
And I was glad to hear them get an earful from someone who stood up for themselves. And Adam Schiff has been neck deep in the intelligence fraud that has been going on in this country since before Joe Biden was elected, during President Trump's first term. The intelligence community, some in it, I hope some of them go to prison for what they did. They knowingly lied, knowingly deceived, FISA courts, all the things we've talked about many times in this program. I'm glad Schiff got an earful from the FBI director.
Oh, yeah. You've heard the term political theater.
Yep.
I mean, this is it. And this is like better than a sitcom or something, isn't it?
Well, the writing was better. I can tell you that. And the performance was better. So there's not a whole lot that's newsworthy. I just wanted to hear it. I just wanted our listeners to hear it.
And I'll say this: I'm kind of with you. I mean, Kash Patel hasn't handled things, in my opinion, hasn't handled some of these situations in the best way. So I'm not sitting here being his cheerleader, but it is just like Alex said. It's political theater Like
it's
Adam
very
Schiff,
theatrical.
It is theatrical, and they want the clips like this, and they want people talking about what the barbs that they get to throw. Adam Schiff stayed camped out he probably slept in a tent outside CNN's newsroom during the whole Russiagate thing, just running in as soon as he heard something. They would just summon him like a court jester. Schiff, come tell us about it. Any day now. We've got Trump. Any day now he's going down. He's going down. So yeah, for Schiff to, I can see how it would irritate Patel. For Adam Schiff to be lecturing someone in the intelligence agency that they're not doing their job properly. So,
well, by the way, I do want to just throw this out. Anyone can answer this. Are we ever going to get to the bottom? I'm just going to go around the table, as it were. Are we going to ever get to the bottom of the Epstein case, the Epstein file, or the Epstein list? Whatever we're talking about.
No.
Tony. All right. So, I honestly don't know if there's an Epstein list. So we'll go Chris, then we'll go Alex, and then Tony.
I say no, and I have 25 years of newsroom experience to back me up on whatever they say they're going to do, they fail to do.
Okay. Yep. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. There's such, mixed messages about it, but I think the left is trying to keep it alive in their hope that this will finally be something they can use to bring down Donald Trump. And, whenever the left is just jubilant over like a possible news story, I've come to be suspect because, we talk about the weaponization of the DOJ. There's also the weaponization of journalism,
right?
Although journalism so-called.
Yeah.
But I doubt there's a list. And that's just my opinion.
Okay. Tony, what do you think?
Well, Ed, I have full faith and confidence in the intelligence agencies and our justice system that justice will be served to those who do wrong.
Yeah.
No, my answer is very bluntly no.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I believe all of that should be divulged, and I agree with Alex. The only reason that the Democrats are wanting the release of the Epstein list is because they know nothing's going to be released, and it's a chance for them to paint Donald Trump with whatever broad brush they want to, try and implicate him in some way. So, no.
They get to imply that his Justice Department is not going to release what's there, in parentheses, knowing there may not be anything there, because that makes it look like Trump is using the Justice Department to protect himself.
Yep.
And listen, I don't know if, we're not even through the first year of President Trump's second term. The Democrats may lose their collective minds trying to find something to destroy Donald Trump with. You're going to get to the last days of the Trump's second administration, and they're still going to be clawing at something. And they've used now, if Trump survives all the way to the end of his second term, they will have taken 12 years, the Democrats,
right?
Instead of doing something constructive, with those 12 years, trying to destroy Donald Trump. I don't know what it is about the guy that has so gotten under their skin. Maybe it's just his attitude and the fact that he disrespects them right back. I don't know. But we talked about last week on Trivia Friday, we talked about Moby Dick, the novel, and the white whale, and spending your life trying to get it. And when you finally put a harpoon in it, it drags you to your death as well. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Democratic Party may destroy its near future trying to get Donald Trump.
That's a good point, Chris.
Yeah, Democrats loved Donald Trump until he came down the escalator and said he was running for president as a Republican. Yeah. From that day forward, they've hated him. I think this, people always say this presidential election is the most important election in our lifetime. I think the midterm coming up is the most important midterm we've ever had because. And Republicans are already kind of talking about 2028. You really need to pay attention to next year because if Democrats get back in control of the House and gain seats in the Senate, they will try to impeach him again. He's been impeached twice.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing to say he can't be impeached 3-4 times.
And look, I want nothing more than for those who have committed heinous acts, whatever is outlined in the Epstein files. I want those people,
right? Whoever
it is, I want them to come to justice. My personal opinion is that if Trump was implicated in any way, it would have come out a very long time ago. They would have released the Epstein files with everything else redacted except the word Trump.
Yeah,
that's what they would have
Hillary
released a
would
long
have put
time
it
ago.
out 10
Yeah, they
years
would
ago.
have already done that. So believe me, if the Democrats want to keep pressing that issue until the Epstein files are released, that's fine with me.
Yeah, have
as long
at
as
it.
it gets released. Yeah, have at it.
All right, Alex, you were one of the few people I remember in the run-up to the 2016 election. You're one of the few people, as I recall, who was a Trump apologist. You defended Trump. You promoted. You believed he was the right man. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, but if that is accurate, you've been as far as I know, the longest standing defender of Trump. Why do you think the Democrats have so hated this man?
Oh, wow. That would be a great dissertation topic. And I got to say
give me the top
this.
2 reasons.
Well, because he's a straight shooter. I mean, and this guy passionately loves America. And I was on the road in the summer of 2015. He announced his candidacy in June of 2015, and I was on the road. And Ted Cruz was a Republican favorite, and I've interviewed Ted Cruz. He's a great brother in the Lord, a great patriot. But I was just on the road, and everywhere I went, everybody all summer long was talking about Donald Trump. And so I was at the Values Voters Summit in the fall of 2015, and I had bumped into Robert Jeffers and also Jerry Falwell Jr. at that time, and we were all talking about Donald Trump. And I will tell you, I honestly believe us three, Jerry Jr., Robert Jeffers, and myself, we were like the first 3 evangelicals that were seriously talking about Trump.
Right.
And I was in the lobby of the conference, Values Voter Summit. They were having a candidates forum. And I asked Tony Perkins, I said, hey, you've got everybody here, Rubio and everybody, why not Donald Trump? And he was like, he asked me, and I love Tony Perkins, he was like, do you really think he's serious? I said, yeah. I said, trust me, I'm on the road like in a different church every weekend. And I'm telling you, all across America, people are talking about Trump. Well, Trump walks in the lobby by himself at the Values Voter Summit. And he was sharp enough to hear about it. And he walked up to me and he extended his hand. And the first thing I thought was, I was like, wow, he is really, really tall. And I said, I'm praying for you. And Donald Trump said, don't stop. That's what he said, don't stop. And all of a sudden, all these people started coming around. I mean, it was like one of the Beatles had walked in. I'm serious. And Krista Johnson, my former secretary at North Greenville University, who now works for Tony Perkins, Krista was there. And I said, go get Tony Perkins. And within a few minutes, Trump was on stage speaking. And anyway, I just had this gut feeling. So Tim Wildmon called me. I was on NPR. And Tim Wildmon called me and he said, hey, do you really think that Donald Trump, I mean, is he viable? I said, Tim, I can't explain it, but this guy is going to be the next president. And I'm not all that smart about political things, guys. I'm on the road in 25 or 30 states a year, have been for 25 years. And the buzz was all over Donald Trump back in late 15 and early 16.
Yeah, we were there.
Alex McFarland, great guy. Always liked Alex. He's good. I appreciate the comments, especially the tall. Not the tall being tall, very tall.
Well, I'm not quite 5'8", so most everybody's tall to me.
We were there, Tony. You and I, we were there. I actually spoke at that Values Voters Summit. I think I was like 2 hours before Trump spoke. And I told my wife afterwards, I said, I don't think anybody's listening to me because they're all so excited that Trump was going to be there. And I was coming down off the platform into the back, and Trump walked in with his entourage. I almost walked over to shake his hand, and he is tall. But I thought, I don't want to get tackled in front of people if he's got security. But I do remember that.
Yeah,
and I think you just kind of toss those two things out. But I think you're spot on. I think he was an outsider. He was not an establishment player, and there are establishment players in both parties, okay, that have been enjoying the gravy train for decades, okay, and that's why he didn't even get a lot of cooperation from some in the Republican Party. But he also loves America, and that really set the left off. Because
and some in the Republican Party.
And some in the Republican Party. You can't do that America First stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to go back and rehash, 2016, but it is striking to me that if Trump, for health reasons or, God forbid, someone else tries to take him out, already 2 assassination attempts on him.
That we're aware of.
That we're aware of. If he makes it to finish his second term, which, folks, we need to pray that President Trump does finish, okay? That'll be 12 years that the Democrats have spent obsessed with torpedoing this man. And I'm telling you, it is the kind of obsession, like in Moby Dick, that can take someone or even a political party down the tubes. And that, plus all the other craziness in the Democratic Party, they are in danger of becoming irrelevant over the next decade.
I fear that when Donald Trump ends, his time here on Earth, when his time ends here on Earth, I should say, I fear if a Democrat's in office, he or she is going to probably try to fight the whole traditional let the body lie in state thing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you somebody's going to float that idea.
They're that vindictive.
It's petty, but I could see it happening.
Yeah. All right, what you got next?
Well, speaking of President Donald Trump, he's across the pond today. We were joking before the show that King Charles had the audacity to have people in red coats greet the American president in Windsor, England.
We need a 52nd state of the United States. We've already got Canada lined up.
We're going to send the New England Patriots over there again.
Good right about now.
All right.
State number 52.
So
we'll show you guys.
The president said he's over there for a couple of things. Trade. Also, he wants to rub elbows with Charles and Camilla, who are great, beautiful people. Clip 6.
It's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. Basically, I'm there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. Primarily, it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king.
Listen, we're going to trade them some tea. We're going to give them back some tea, but we're going to tariff it.
Yeah.
American tea. That's right. You're gonna drink it and you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
So
we're watching them. I mean, they're in Windsor together today. They're climbing steps to go into some sort of building.
Yeah.
Heavily funded by taxpayers somewhere.
In all seriousness, though, it is incredible to see the difference in how Trump is treated.
Yeah, you're right.
Globally. Than this previous administration. I mean, Biden, he probably didn't even know where he was half the time. But for Trump, I mean, from what I've heard of and seen, it's kind of unheard of what the UK is doing for Trump visiting. Like they rarely do. Yeah, it's historic. So Donald Trump really has restored globally America's reputation, in my opinion. He presents us as being strong. A lot of people have differing opinions on the tariffs, but that was a way to kind of reestablish that America is not going to be taken advantage of anymore. We're not going anywhere, and we're here to stay. So
well, and I'll say this, Alex. I think Tony's exactly right on this. I just want to say this one thing, and I want to get back to Biden for just a second. But there is, for the last 7 or 8 years, it's almost like a meme. There's a video. I don't even know what the original, it's in a sports bar, okay? And there's a huge crowd. I don't know what they were watching because that's probably long gone. I don't know whether it was a soccer game or the Super Bowl or whatever. And there's something happening on the big screen at this sports bar, and the crowd goes crazy. Now, this has been used over and over again. You substitute whatever was on that big screen TV with something else, and then the crowd goes crazy, and you're making fun of what they're cheering. Well, I saw this morning, on that big screen, someone had put Joe Biden walking up the stairs to Air Force One. Slowly, the tension builds in the crowd, and he makes it to the top and turns around successfully, making it up the stairs, and the crowd goes crazy.
Yeah.
Okay? And to me, that is the way the world treated Joe Biden. He was not taken seriously. He was not feared. And Trump, the United States of America is an alpha male, okay, on the world stage. We may not always be that. We may get replaced like all the other alpha males through history. But right now, we're the big dog. I think our military is larger than the next 5 combined or something crazy like that, okay? And Donald Trump makes sure everybody knows it. I just read on Fox, we've got a new B-21 stealth bomber, the Raider, that is entered into production. It's come on 28% under cost, and it is 6th generation. Nobody else has got anything like it. That's not a guarantee that we're going to win the next war. God forbid if one comes. But Alex, Donald Trump is the president of the strongest nation in the world, and he doesn't mind showing our enemies and our friends that we take that role seriously.
Yeah. And, I want to say whenever we speak about the negatives, whether it be the Clintons, Obama, Biden, Kamala Harris, I can honestly say I have and I do pray for these people. I pray for their soul. I pray for their welfare. But, like with Biden, who was just feeble and continually fell. Do you know on 3 separate occasions, his handlers tried to create a photo op of him riding a bike and look like a virile, in good shape. 3 times they did a photo op with him riding a bike. 3 times he fell over off the bike. And one time in Northern Virginia, many people will remember this. He was in Northern Virginia at some park. They helped him up on a bike, and they wanted to film him riding a bike. Well, Joe Biden fell off. Somebody on Google Maps dropped a pin and called it Biden Falls, Virginia. Do you remember that? Seriously, because there's like Falls Creek, Virginia.
Yes.
Well, and it stuck. Now, about 24 hours later, Google tried to remove it, but it was on atlases all over the internet. Biden Falls,
I actually
Virginia.
didn't know that. That's very funny. And listen, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so now there's a huge bike rally that happens there. People go seriously, and it's
to
sad.
Biden Falls.
Yeah. But I mean, it made us look weak on the world stage.
That's new meaning to riding with Biden.
Yes. Listen, and to your point, we're not making fun of old people who fall.
No.
Okay, that's not the point. The point is we had an older person who was feeble running the nation, and our enemies were taking advantage of that
over and over that he was fit for office.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
The deception also enters into it. All right, Chris, thank you. I'm not sure what we started off talking about, but it got fun. I hope our listeners enjoyed that. That was Biden Falls. That's made my day.
Get riding my bike.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break for news, and when we come back, Steve Paisley-Jordahl will join us. We're going to be talking about some of the things in common with the radical movements facing America.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
If God could speak, what would he say? The Bible subjects itself to historical verification.
He says, we saw this. We go to the Bible wanting to hear what the living God has to say to us.
When God speaks, what does he say?
The God who speaks. Visit stream.afa.net. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. On Tuesday, President Trump and First Lady Melania arrived in the UK, where they were greeted by Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. They spent the night at Windsor Castle.
Basically, up there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. Primarily, it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king.
The suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination had a court appearance yesterday, where he was charged with 7 counts, including aggravated premeditated murder. Investigators are building the case, which includes text messages from Tyler Robinson to his male lover roommate, in which he confessed to the crime. Utah County DA Jeff Gray reads a portion of one of those messages.
Roommate, you weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson, I'm sorry. Roommate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence.
Former federal prosecutor Katie Kurchaski says there's a rock-solid case against this suspect. The question is it enough for the death penalty?
Well, it looks like they have a very rock-solid case factually here. I mean, they even have the suspect making statements about the motive, about the planning, about the obstruction, attempting to tamper with witnesses, asking them not to cooperate with the police. So in terms of the elements that the prosecution has to prove, it's pretty obvious that they have evidence to support all of that. The big question is whether they can get the death penalty, and that's another calculation altogether.
FBI Director Kash Patel appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Capitol Hill Tuesday to answer questions about numerous topics, including the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the Jeffrey Epstein files. Patel being involved in multiple fiery exchanges with senators, including California Democrat Adam Schiff.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Texas Department of Public Safety officers have helped arrest more than 3,000 illegal aliens across the state this year. Lieutenant Christopher Olivares with the Texas Department of Public Safety says they are shifting their focus from the border toward aiding the Trump administration's mass deportation crusade.
Now our focus is, obviously now we don't have such a high volume of illegal border crossings because of the crackdown from the current administration. So now our efforts are partnering up with ICE, other federal law enforcement agencies, DEA, ATF, Border Patrol as well, and doing these strike force operations in the interior of Texas, focusing on larger metropolitan areas, while we still have specialized teams on the border.
A new report aims to expose what hospitals are leaving consumers without the fairness and financial certainty that real prices provide. Chris Woodward has more.
The information comes from patientrightsadvocate.org, which says President Donald Trump called for transparency during his first term in office. PRA founder and chair Cynthia Fisher.
What is so important about price transparency is it's supposed to provide a free market when hospitals and insurance companies post their prices, and patients and employers who help design health plans to benefit their workers and their families have the right to have prices up front, itemized bills to see if they match those prices, and the payment and claims information to make sure they weren't overcharged, erroneously charged, or fraudulently billed.
Some of PRA's findings from 2,000 hospitals nationwide include 43% of hospitals are posting fewer prices now than last year. 236 hospitals failed to post any prices in actual dollars and cents for consumers, and 75% of hospitals posted algorithms that require interpretation by a contract expert. I'm Chris Woodward.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Every day, AFA offers biblical insight on issues that others aren't willing to touch in the hopes that you'll become a world changer. That's why we're offering an in-depth worldview training course called Activate. 13 different professors teaching 18 sessions, all available online, including a printed workbook to help you apply what you've learned and 1-year access to AFA streaming content to give you even more resources. Find out more about Activate and sign up today at activate.afa.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome back. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon this week, the whole week, folks. Tony Vitagliano joins me in studio. Dr. Alex McFarland joins us from his home in South Carolina. And now Steve Paisley Jordahl, and he's living up to the name today, joins us. Yeah.
I was asked to do this yesterday, and so I'm doing it.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah. And folks, I do want to remind you we are working through, we've got some new equipment, and we're working to, like when you get a new computer, you got to restore your preferences so that it operates the way you prefer. And so we're working on some of that.
Yeah, I'm
with
sitting
our
in a strange
technology
seat,
here.
and it's hard to find the buttons. I get it.
We appreciate Brent. Appreciate the job Brent's doing.
Absolutely.
Keep us going.
Brent and Jonathan Coker and others, Mark Cantrell, who have been in here trying to sitting on the floor.
Yesterday, I felt like we were in NASCAR. We pulled up to the pit stop. We stopped. We ended the show, and people were diving under the desk trying to
Engineers
get things
trying to make
wow.
adjustments to the sound and
Doing a
the
great
microphones, and they're doing a great job. We do appreciate them. So, all right, Steve.
All right,
we've talked it up here the last couple of days. I've been looking forward to the thing we're going to be discussing here. Why don't you get us rolling?
All right, so I've been listening. One of the things I do on the way when I drive home is listen to different podcasts. I got several that I listen to. Ben Shapiro is one that I've been listening to, and he has reduced what we're seeing now with political violence down to some very interesting theory. First of all, if you want to hear this from his own lips, the last couple days he's recited this several times on his podcast. Go to his podcast. Listen to the last few days' shows. You'll hear all of this in his own words. I am taking all of this verbatim. This all belongs to Ben Shapiro. I am just rehearsing it here with a little bit of his sound clips. The other thing, he's got a new book. It's called Lions and Scavengers. And it basically, this is laid out in there, but it divides the world into two groups. The lions who want to produce things and the scavengers who want to tear things down. And so I would recommend that to anybody as well. But he has a theory about political violence. And this is what he says. When you hear about an act of political violence, your mind automatically goes to certain groups of people. You hear that a mosque has been shot up, you think white supremacist or Muslim radical, right? Literally nobody in the whole world, when they heard about or saw the Charlie Kirk shooting, said, oh, that's someone who is radicalized over the marginalized tax rate.
Right.
That just isn't one thing.
That doesn't drive it.
It doesn't. There are certain things, not all ideologies are the same. Listen to Cut 10.
There are certain ideologies that create violent ramifications, that it's inherent in the ideology that there will be radicals of the ideology who engage in violence. Not all ideological movements are the same. The sort of flattening of all ideologies into, oh, yes, all ideologies are equally likely to lead to violence. That is not true.
Your mind automatically goes to one of 5 violent ideologies when you hear about political violence, and they all have something in common, according to Ben Shapiro, Cut 11.
There are, however, ideologies that breed violence, that breed them. And you can spot those ideologies. The ideologies that breed violence usually have 3 features in common. Feature number 1 is a conspiratorial view of the universe in which a shadowy cabal of very powerful people are conspiring to make your life worse, to ruin your life. Your failures are not your own. They are the faults of this shadowy cabal, this evil cabal of people. You can't quite name them. Second, a belief that your specific group or you personally are targeted for destruction by that shadowy cabal, which leads to, number 3, a belief that violence is self-defense.
A cabal is a secret group, especially powerful people that work together behind the scenes to achieve goals. Okay. So that's what a cabal is. And you can see this when you talk to a transgender person and they say, you're erasing me. Because we say a boy cannot be a girl. Well, you're now threatening me. That way,
and your words are violent.
Your words are violence because they're erasing me. Therefore, I have a right to retaliate with violence. So political violence in this country is going to be perpetrated by one of 5 violent ideologies, according to Ben. If you take out this, if you forget about the guys that are just simply crazy that go and shoot someone because they're mentally deranged. Cut 12.
And we know which ideologies fit that bill. Trans ideologies fit that bill because the basic idea there is if you say a man is a woman, you're trying to harm me, you're trying to erase me, and therefore I am justified in ending the pseudo-trans genocide by doing physical harm to you. Left-wing Marxism has this view. Rich people are a threat to poor people. They've stolen from poor people. The only way to fight the rich people is to kill them. A murderer kills a United Healthcare CEO. He totally deserved to be killed. Free Luigi, white supremacist ideology. Failures of white people in any way, shape, or form are a result of a systemic, of an evil system that has been cultivated by people of color and or Jews, and therefore violence against them is totally justified. BLM had the same aspect. There are systems of racism and oppression in the United States, and the only way to fight back against those systems is to loot businesses and burn them down and to do acts of violence and then excuse them. Radical Islam makes the same claim. Other civilizations are more successful. It's not that those civilizations are more successful because, they pursue better things. It must be because they are exploitative and terrible, and thus they must be wiped from the planet.
So when the liberals, the Democrats say we got to bring the temperature down and stop the political violence, they need to be more specific. We need to stop the transgender movement needs to stop the political violence, or the radical Muslim movement needs to stop the political rhetoric. And they're not doing that.
So give the name of the book again. This comes Ben Shapiro. You were listening to his podcast. He's laying this out, but it's a condensed version of the book he wrote. We want to do him a solid.
Yep.
And what is the name of the book?
Lions and Scavengers.
All right.
Available
so, folks,
now.
if you are interested in what Steve has laid out from Ben Shapiro's podcast, pick up a copy of that book. And we are going to discuss some of these ideas for probably a good chunk of the time we have remaining. All right, Alex, I know that you have discussed issues like this. I've heard you speak a number of times, and you lay out similar outlines of what we are facing in this country. What are your thoughts about Ben Shapiro's insights?
Well, as always, brilliant, pithy, insightful, and I think he's right. Those 5 groups that he laid out: Islam, left-wing Marxism, white supremacist, BLM, and trans ideology. And it's interesting. I tried to find the number of riots that occurred in the aftermath of the George Floyd death in May of 2020. And there's not really a number on it, but listen to this. The majority of the BLM gatherings, and I'm not demonizing or making judgments, I'm just reporting facts, that in 2020 alone, 20 people died at BLM gatherings. And, the thing about it, in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk death, no windows were smashed. There were no cars burned in major American cities.
No businesses looted.
No. Because, for one thing, the Judeo-Christian worldview gets it right about morality, humanity, the human nature. See, here's the thing. Here's one difference. I'll throw it back to you. In a secular worldview, humans are not fallen sinful, but they're expendable.
Right.
That they can be aborted or murdered. But in a Christian worldview and a Jewish Judeo-Christian worldview, humans are fallen and sinful, yet humans are valuable because we're made in God's image. We're image bearers.
Well, Tony, I like what Ben laid out there. I think it's accurate. I do appreciate the fact that he acknowledges that on the issue of race, you have 2 groups at opposite extremes. You have white supremacists who feel threatened by people of color, who feel oppressed by them and endangered by them. Therefore, they have the right to be violent. But BLM's the same way, only with the opposite kind of worldview. White people are the threat. We've been through that for 5 years. White people are all racist. This is a systemically racist country. White people can never not be racist. You find a lot of white people who agree with that because they are sympathetic to the BLM movement. But that violence is justified. In the aftermath of these riots in 2020, we saw and heard Democratic Party leaders talking about, well, I'm surprised that Nancy Pelosi, I think, famously said, I'm surprised that these riots haven't continued. And Kamala Harris said, well, maybe they should continue. So because there's no other option.
Right.
That's what Ben Shapiro's saying.
Yeah, and I think about, was it Tim Walz's wife talking about during the 2020 riots, she would open her windows to smell the burning tires, and she what did she say? She I'm be misquoting, but basically she liked the smell of it because it was people carrying out and fighting against injustice. Yeah, I mean, by the way, Alex, I did just a quick bit of research. The amount of money that cost for insured damages in 2020 is estimated to be between $1 to $2 billion.
Broke records.
Yeah, broke records. And by the way, folks, I'm sure our insurance, everybody's insurances are going up. You can thank some of that, at least in part, to the 2020 riots and the increase there. Yeah, it's driven. It's a separation of worldviews. I think Christians. Alex's point about, like, for instance, the aftermath of what happened with Charlie Kirk's death is that Christians should be aware and are aware of the grace that they've been shown by God through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And so punishing the innocent is not something that comes natural to Christians. Matter of fact, it's antithetical to what we believe. So we are not going to be inclined to punish those who had nothing to do with what we experienced. And government's job, on the other hand, is to punish the wicked and those who have committed crimes, and only those who have committed crimes. Whenever you have this humanist approach and this humanist outlook on life, you get that justification, that leap from where I'm at and the situation I'm in, and it's not my fault, to I'm going to make people pay for the situation I'm in who have had nothing to do with it. I think about we've talked about it a couple of times, the United Healthcare CEO, just murdered in the street. And Luigi Mangione targeted him because he attributed his own suffering and his own situation he was in, and he put the blame solely on the CEO of that organization, not thinking about, didn't take into consideration his family, what he may have gone through, that was a man who actually worked his way up through the company. And so there was no consideration for that. It was only the victim mindset of how I've suffered and who can I blame for that suffering.
Steve, one of the things I've noticed, I've done a lot of reading over the years about revolution. Became interested in it when I was, actually before I became a Christian, when I was at Boston College. Read a book by Crane Brinton, who's a political scientist, called The Anatomy of Revolution. It's very insightful. But one of the things I've noticed is that people who are of a revolutionary mindset, they run out of patience with the status quo. You see this on the left a lot, not just with Marxists, but towards that side of the political spectrum. They don't, especially now that Trump gets elected twice.
Right.
And they run out of patience. They don't think they can make the changes, the fairly substantial changes they want to make to, quote unquote, fix America, because America keeps voting in people like Donald Trump. So we have to do something drastic. And that is what revolutionary movements often do. They are trying to build, they make the same mistake over and over again. They're trying to build a utopia. They're trying to build the kingdom of heaven on earth, and we can't get there because Group X is in the way.
Right.
And we can't vote them out of the way. We can't reason with them out of the way because they're stupid or they're crazy or they're evil. So we're going to have to take the next step. And I'm seeing amongst young people, a fairly substantial chunk of them, the willingness to take that next step.
Well, and we're seeing a little bit of this in an abbreviated version from the conservatives in the wake of the assassination, when they find somebody online that was happy about Charlie Kirk's death, and they dox this person, and they find out where they work, and they get them fired and everything. And everybody's jumping up and down. Oh, look, you taste your own medicine. It feels good. But I'm not so sure, Alex, that it's a godly response.
No, it's not a godly response. And I mean, we're paying the price for decades of moral knowledge being suppressed.
Yep.
I mean, really. I mean, even, there have been sports riots where, fans burned cars and things like that. But kids have to be taught right from wrong. And there has to be this, in Romans 13, 1-7, which is one of the passages about God's sanctioning of good civil government, Romans 13:3 says rulers are not a terror to those who do good works, but a terror to those who do bad works. And in the language of the Greek, it's phobia. In other words, evildoers, lawbreakers, insurrectionists, murderers, rioters should be afraid of the government,
right,
and therefore abstain from doing evil things. Because, when people know there's a price to pay, there's not only accountability to man, but ultimately accountability to God. Maybe people will think twice before doing bad stuff. But here in America, even though our whole Declaration, Preamble, Constitution, and Bill of Rights. Hey, by the way, not to mention 50 out of 50 state constitutions. Do you know all 50 state constitutions reference God? Mm-hmm. But kids for several generations have been taught, it's all about your self-esteem. There is no moral truth. Abortion is okay because it's not a human life. Homosexuality and gay marriage is okay. And now, we've got passionate defenders of gender fluidity, which, if anything, could be more objectively true, that men and women are different. It should be that. But we must have a revival of moral acknowledgement, because we're looking more and more lawless, and our suppression of morality is the cause of it.
Yeah, and and then Steve, we're going to kick it back to you, but I always go back to Matthew 24, and that Jesus is talking about a world crisis or the end times, depending on your eschatology. But he says, and I think this is a principle for any particular time, he said, because lawlessness has increased, people's love will grow cold. Mm-hmm. And I think that is true, whether it's in the middle of World War II or whether it's in America of 2025. Christians especially have to be very careful that we don't allow Christian love to grow cold as we witness the lawlessness that we are experiencing, because it's very easy to hate. And I don't want this to happen in amongst Christians. For example, when Irina was it Zarutska? I always the girl killed on the train in Charlotte. It's very easy for Christians to fall into the trap of saying, "Well, it's all black people," okay? Because DeCarlos Brown killed a white girl, okay? That to me is evidence that our hearts are growing cold, and we're not thinking Christianly about a particular situation that is clearly evil and lawless. Same thing with the Charlie Kirk assassination. We got to be very careful. We got to guard our hearts and make sure we do not sin against God in our anger and frustration at the evil being committed.
Okay, we have a couple minutes left. Can I change this up? You want to go back over the Grassley thing that we ended on yesterday?
This was the frost, the
Arctic frost thing.
Yeah, we're not giving it a whole lot more time, but let's try it. Yeah.
So this is what Chuck Grassley said about a whistleblower at the FBI Cut 15.
Arctic frost was the FBI case opened and approved by antitrust Trump FBI agent Tebow. Arctic frost then became Jack Smith's elector case against then citizen Trump and now President Trump. These new records show that Arctic frost was much broader than just an electoral matter. The case was expanded to Republican organizations. Some examples of the group that Ray FBI sought to place under political investigation included the Republican National Committee, Republican Attorney Generals Association, and various Trump political groups. In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic frost.
Ed?
Okay, so Tony, I've never had to go up against the might of the federal government. Mm-hmm. This is the problem. This is what the founders did not want to have happen, which is why we have a federalist system and we have separation of powers and we have checks and balances, was to prohibit, or to prevent, I should say, a central government growing as powerful as our federal government has grown. I've never had to fight that power in a courtroom. I think anyone who does that, if they don't have outside help, will go bankrupt. This is probably why a lot of people just give up and just plead down to lower charges, because you can't beat the federal government. But to see this kind of power used against political enemies, we saw that throughout the 8 years between 2016 and 2020 and 2024. That's terrifying.
Yeah, this is why accountability is so important. And I know that this is being released while we have a Republican administration in office. And some people bristle at that. Maybe even some people who are in positions of authority in these organizations, but accountability is so important. Changes need to be made at a very structural, foundational level in our justice system, the Department of Justice, the FBI, our foreign intelligence organizations. We need structural changes, because part of the net that they were casting as to organizations they're keeping an eye on. Let's not forget about Catholics going to Mass. Yes. Was a red flag, and what it is it's a portrayal and a targeting of conservatives and Christians as being the number one enemy, when in fact the majority of violent acts are being carried out from leftist organizations. It is very frustrating to see that, and I think one step that they could take, in my opinion. I don't know, we may have to have somebody come speak constitutionally about this or where it falls, but identifying Antifa as a terrorist organization is more justified than grandmas going to parent-teacher conferences or Catholics attending Mass, in my opinion. That's a good first step for me to show the sincerity and accountability in restructuring our justice system.
Very good. And what we need to also consider doing is going back to the Constitution. Separation of powers rather than the aggregation of powers in Washington, D.C. Nothing really but harm has come from that happening over the last half century or more. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. My thanks to all who have helped us. Lord willing, we'll see you here tomorrow.